Let's just kick off with a view on why it's important to have specific regulation for commodities exchanges and derivatives exchanges, because of course these exchanges function differently to stock exchanges.
Yes, they do function differently. As you could imagine, the stock exchanges are trading purely in equities, and these now are trading in commodities as well as futures and derivatives that are based on the values underlined by the specific commodity. So the regulation does tend to be slightly different from stock exchanges.
What are the biggest challenges from a regulatory perspective then at this point in time that you're looking to address when it comes to harmonization of regulation across exchanges? I mean, what are the big issues that are on the table at this conference?
Yes, I think you could probably well imagine that the issues of commodity exchanges are fairly sophisticated, quite complex, and that sector, that industry, that activity hasn't quite developed in Africa as it has in the more advanced economies. So initially, it's really all about laying the sound regulatory environment and framework, enacting the right legislation, making sure that the regulations are aligned with international best practice, as well as the point that you make that because this is a Pan-African project that we're looking at that will be operating across several African countries, the regulations in all those countries in which the project is active pretty much have to be aligned and be very similar for seamless activities to be carried forward. I'll give you the case in Botswana. I mean, you can well imagine we never anticipated that we would have any other exchange apart from the local stock exchange. Therefore, it was required of us to basically... Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Just following what you're saying.
To basically promulgate and enact legislation that allows even the licensing and establishment of this exchange. So it has required quite a bit of work for us to come up to speed to accommodate this activity.
Is this all setting the tone and all setting the background in order to develop the Bourse Africa, which of course, as you say, will be that Pan-African exchange, or is it to initially start derivatives exchanges, commodities exchanges in specific countries?
This was really initiated initiated by the Bourse Africa project. They obviously identified a commercial opportunity to establish this venture in Africa. The promoters of this project have actually established similar exchanges in places such as Mauritius, Singapore, and Dubai. And from a regional perspective, the next frontier where the opportunity was in Africa. And they selected Botswana because we are positioning ourselves as a financial and international business services center, and we provide specific activities. And obviously, you are familiar with the macroeconomic fundamentals that Botswana enjoys. So the combination of those actually compelled the promoters to set the project up in Botswana. And it was on the basis of that then we did everything that was required to make sure that the regulatory environment was created, an enabling environment was indeed created for this project to be established here. It also required of other African countries similarly who were interested in hosting this project or being participating in this project to also likewise, in the event that they didn't already have this framework in place, for them to also put the framework as well in place.
Just give us an idea of who the funders are of this Bourse Africa project, how much money is actually needed to get it up and running, because of course you're going to need personnel, you're going to need technology, you're going to need a whole host of equipment, just I suppose office space to get this project up and running. What is the plan there?
That is correct. This project has been promoted by a leading Indian technology multinational called FT Technologies of India, who have been instrumental in establishing several exchanges in India and, as I mentioned, several other regions of the world. Now, they are looking at the estimated capital outlay for this project initially is about $100 million US. There are other African-based GFIs or multilateral agencies who are looking also at equity participation in this project to give it that Pan-African profile, because this really has to be a Pan-African project. They are looking at putting in possibly up to about 20% of the equity in this project. It is going to be a relatively large investment, a relatively large project. It's looking at employing probably well over 100 people. Not all of them obviously are going to be based in Botswana, because the project will have operations in several other African countries.
Yeah. Letsebe, before I let you go, is the market ready for this right now? The derivatives exchange, commodities exchange, do you feel that the markets, there's education there, and do you feel like there's demand for these products and it's the right time?
I think, there's several elements in your question, but in terms of the market being ready for this sort of activity, you can well appreciate that I think the estimates right now about somewhere between 60 and 70% of all commodities in the world are actually produced in Africa. So it's really a question of bringing the price discovery and the trading of those commodities back onto Africa where they're being produced, as opposed to perhaps where they're being consumed in the West. So insofar as the opportunity being there, it is clearly there. What then needs to happen is a lot of work has to go into attracting the brokers, the traders who typically trade on those other developed markets to also see value in trading similarly on participating on the Bots Africa exchange that is based in Africa. I mean, as I said earlier when we started, this is a very sophisticated, very complex, and I dare say very ambitious undertaking by Africa. So clearly a lot of capacity building has to take place, a lot of education has to take place, and we've got programs in place to be able to address those sort of issues.
Of course, without vision and ambition, progress would never be achieved. Letsebe, thank you so much for joining us today. Letsebe Sejoe, head of the IFSC portfolio at the Botswana Investment and Trade Centre.